a easy film to watch, one that's incredibly sad. And I was just saying to Asif that seeing family at Golders Green Crematorium for one so young is just so tragic, and such talent. This story is a very powerful one. How did that start? How did you come about the story?
Hello everyone, good evening. I suppose this film, Amy, is kind of a continuation of the work that we did on our previous film called Senna, which is another documentary about this racing driver, Ayrton Senna. And the film had been fairly successful, and somebody had really liked it and got in touch saying, someone from originally from her record company, who had said, you know, would you be interested in making a film about Amy Winehouse? And we were just talking outside, but essentially I'm a North Londoner. I grew up, born and bred in Hackney, but lived around Camden in Kentish Town for about 10 years. And so when Amy became famous and was kind of, you know, becoming this pop star, she was quite a local girl to where I was living. I didn't know her, I didn't meet her, but the story was going on just over there. Yeah. I was living over there. So when the opportunity came along, I remember thinking, actually, there's something about this that's intriguing me, because it is a local story, but it's also, I had questions. There were issues that troubled me about what happened to Amy and what seemed to be going on in the press. And there was just something that was in the back of my head that I thought I'd be interested in making this film, because I feel like I want a few answers. I want to understand, how did it turn out that way? Why did it turn out that way? And that was it, really. It was an instinct. And I remember her first album. I was a bit of a fan, but I remember kind of not being interested in her when she became a tabloid persona. And so that was it. It was just like, I have personal questions that I'd like to figure out. And making a film is a bit of an investigation.
Yeah, I mean, and what an investigation. I mean, so when, just in terms of the process of getting from that kind of first idea through to the you know, what is it that you're going to shoot? Did you start with a kind of a story that you wanted to think about, or was it as a result of the investigation into all the footage and the...
I mean, on this film, it all started with, well, initial contacts with people. Pretty much everyone said, I'm not interested, don't want to talk to you. So there was a lot of closed doors. So I thought, okay, I don't know what the story is, and I can't make a film unless I know what the story is. So the only way to do it is to earn people's trust and to talk to them. So initially, I'd make contact with people, everyone around Amy, her friends, her family, her management, her band members, people who may have met her once. And all I would ask for is, just give me a few minutes of your time, in private, just the two of us. We'll have a conversation, and you just tell me your side of the story, how you met Amy, where you crossed paths. And what I'd like to do is just record the audio. I'm not going to have a camera, there'll be no other crew, but essentially I did audio interviews. And people were very wary and paranoid of journalists or paparazzi. They didn't know who I was, so I had to find a way to earn their trust where they would speak openly. And that was it. It was just talking. Talking to people became how the story became revealed. And one person would speak, and actually it became therapy for them to get it off their chest. And then they'd feel better, and they'd say, well, you should talk to this person and this person. And then all the doors started to open. And I think I did about 110 interviews. Some of the interviews are 4, 5, 6, 7 hours long. And the audio that you hear in the film all comes out of these different interviews. And once they started to tell me what was going on, then we would go off and start piecing together the kind of images, the mosaic that you see of pictures, none of which I shot. Everything that you see has come from archive. Everything you see we had to find and research. And once people trusted us, they then gave over their own personal photographs or home videos or camera phone footage or answer phone messages. So everything you see has come out of trust that we had to earn from that initial, I don't want to know, I don't want to talk to you, or it's too painful.
It was actually that, it was one of the questions I was going to ask you, because, you know, phone, I mean, kind of answer phone message, I mean, all sorts of media that you were kind of weaving into this collage of the film.
Yeah, you never know at the beginning of the process if any of this exists. So for a long time I was not sure if we had a movie. I had a lot of doubts, but bit by bit you start opening doors, and then a bit of footage turns up and you think, that's great. So a lot of that early material of Amy just messing around, playing pool, getting changed in the toilets, that came from her friends and from her first manager, Nick Szymanski. And that was the moment where I thought, okay, I've never seen that girl before. I've never seen that person in this kind of intimacy, and I really like her. She's so funny. I had no idea Amy was so funny. And so that early stuff is, I suppose that's what grabbed me, and I thought, how do you go from there to the person 2 years, 3 years later that seems to be in such a bad way? What happened? And that becomes the thing that drives you to try to answer those questions and to understand, you know, why did no one stop it? Were there any opportunities to stop it? And then the next key kind of revelation, I suppose, is one, as people were being interviewed and talking to me, moments will come out of the interview where they're saying, you know, Nick, her first manager, told me about a moment he took her to see a doctor to get help because he thought she needed help and she admitted she needed help and said, I'd go, you know, if my father thinks I need to go, and then he takes her to see the father, and then basically somehow he turns around to her not going anymore, and I'm like, hold on, that rings a bell, that's rehab. And that was the other stage of realising that all of the songs are essentially based on real moments and real incidents and real people in her life, every song, and they're very autobiographical. So suddenly I have a concept of the structure. You know, the songs fit into her story. For me, it was a musical. You know, it's a musical with her singing live songs which are telling you about her moments in her life, key pivotal moments. So the whole film was always going to be constructed around performances, which many of those songs you already know.
I love that method of the kind. Actually, for me, should we swap mics?
That comedian, they said.
The way that on screen, with all that kind of, with all the words coming up,
the lyrics, yeah,
the lyrics coming up. I mean, of course, you know those songs, and yet actually to see them
not
on
really
screen
listened carefully enough. Yeah, I didn't know
in the
what
context of the in the context of the story.
So there were, I suppose, there were a few things then. One, I really wanted her humour and her character to come across, because I really liked that side of her personality, and I wasn't aware of that. I wanted the audience to see that and really like her. So if you're not a fan, suddenly you find her really funny and witty, and she's great because she says everything she's not supposed to say. And then on a professional level, I thought her writing was amazing. People talked about her voice, but her writing is incredible. And it's very personal, it's very London, it's from a woman's point of view, and there's so many clever things in there. And I think you get carried away with the music, you don't listen. And a lot of the records are quite well produced, shall we say. So I enjoyed going back to like original live performances with her just playing the guitar. And then you can hear the words, and putting the words up on screen become a big part of it, for me anyway, to understand every lyric is about that kind. There's all of these kind of North London phrases in there, you know, that she's somehow entwined in there. And it's just beautiful, so I wanted to highlight that on a professional level, her songwriting skills, because I don't think people talked about her as being a great writer, but that, I think, is one of her greatest talents, actually.
Yeah, I'm going to open up questions to the audience. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to ask a question? I might not be able to get the mic to all of you, but let's try.
Hello. Apart from the odd fleeting photo, Amy's brother doesn't feature in the film at all. Why is that?
We tried to make contact. He was one person who, for various reasons, just didn't want to be a part of it. So I wanted to talk to him, but he didn't want to be a part of the film. I think for whatever has happened in the past, he just decided to stay out of the limelight and not talk. So we tried, and he didn't want to be a part of it.
Hi.
Oh,
Hello. You talked about, you know, getting access and the problems that you had first getting access. Who was the person who first let you in so that the chain could start with the doors opening up?
I mean, to begin with, I spoke to a few people at the record company, and that was kind of the initial conversations. The person who I would say really opened the door to kind of the young Amy was her first manager and friend, Nick Szymanski. He initially said, no, don't want to be a part of it, not interested, but I would say, okay, that's fine, I'm not going to hassle you or push you or force you to do anything you don't want to do. But, you know, you knew her for a certain period of time. Is it okay if I just contact you every now and again saying, who's this person? Because someone might give me some footage, and I'd look at it, I had no idea who's in the photograph or in the footage. So Nick would be a person I felt I could trust, and I would just go to and say, who's this? Is this person part of my life? Is this person important? And I suppose during that process, he and I just got to know each other, and he trusted me, and eventually he was willing to talk. off the record initially and kind of on the record, and then he eventually said, you know, I have got some footage, and he kind of opened up his laptop and said, I shot all this footage, it's probably no use to you. And that's when you start seeing all like young stuff of them just hanging out. He happened to have a camera for a few weeks and shot a lot of this material. So I thought Nick became quite important for that early stage, because he met her when she was 16. He was 19, she was 16. And together they got a record deal, they got a first album out. He also connected me with Juliet and Lauren, her two childhood friends, who initially had no interest in talking to anyone. But he put us in touch, and then I met with them. And getting Juliet and Lauren to talk probably took about 8 or 9 months. On the latter part, there was one of her producers, Salam Remy, is the big black guy that you see sometimes in the film. Salam, I was probably trying to get him to talk to me for about a year and a half. And he isn't that famous, because he's a very shy person, doesn't talk. All of them were in pain still from Amy's passing. So, but I knew he was pivotal. He was right there at the beginning. He was there for both albums. He was there right at the ending. Mark Ronson's more famous in a way for being a producer of Amy's, but Salam's been there much longer. And I kept saying to Salam, you know, whenever you're ready, I'm not going to rush you, but I can't make the film without you. You know, and that would be the same with Juliet and Lauren and various people. Is that at some point, I hope you'll understand that you have to be a part of this film for it to be in any way a definitive film about Amy. So Nick was key, and he opened quite a few other doors.
Thanks very much for a fantastic film. One of the things that was really horrifying to me was the vision of her coming out of the door and being practically blinded by the cameras going off. Was that at all exaggerated, or was that exactly as it would have been for her? Because it was horrifying.
I mean, if you've ever been in that situation, it is blinding, actually.
Yeah.
If ever you have lots of people flashing photographs of taking photos of you in the dark. So that was a constant. That was her life for a long period of time. I mean, my job as a filmmaker is to find things, do my research, tell the story, and then make it visceral, to make you feel it. So I didn't want that to be nice and smoothed out. I wanted to heighten it. So you do that with films. You heighten the sound. The sound is the thing that makes it more shocking, actually, is hearing the clicks. They're like, you know, punches. And essentially, that was an everyday kind of occurrence for Amy. You got a young, petite woman being chased by 50 blokes with cameras, big lumps of metal, some of whom, there's a couple of moments where you see it, where one will bump into her to get a reaction, and the next guy's there ready to take a photo. You know, it was kind of like the whole paparazzi thing was absolutely at its worst, because that's the time when newspapers went digital. That was the big thing that happened at that point. So you've got print newspapers, tabloids, going suddenly digital, needing information to upload and update their websites every day, many, many times. And it was essentially that someone on one side will be selling stories to the Mirror, and someone else will be selling stories to the Sun, and someone else is selling stories to the Mail. And this was all going on, and she sold papers. As far as they're concerned, if you keep clicking on those pages, we'll keep putting her up on, you know. So I wanted that to be nasty and shocking and violent, because I think it really was. It's a horrible existence, I think.
Fascinating documentary. I was just interested to know whether you were forced to leave out any clips, either for editorial or story reasons, that you would have otherwise wanted to include.
I think, you know, one of the things about this process is that I've seen thousands of hours of material, and it's always like covers all of the kind of range. Really great, funny stuff that I wish was in the film, and really heavy, dark stuff. A lot of the dark stuff, there was no one said, oh, you can't have that, you can't use that. We ended up making those choices. A lot of it is out there, you know, sadly, there's a lot of horrible stuff. There's a lot of bad performances, there's a lot of stuff of Amy really in a bad way, much of which has already been used by newspapers, online, and in the end, we pulled back from showing some of that. Because some of it's kind of unbearable, unwatchable, and it's so tragic to see a person existing in that state. Some of it, I wanted to show it enough for you to realise the journey she goes on, but we pulled back from certain things because actually it just became too uncomfortable, too unbearable to watch, and too tragic, actually. But mostly that's kind of an editorial kind of decision that you make. I don't think anything was kind of forced upon us.
One question that I've been begging to ask, really, and I didn't really want to start with it, is
The obvious one.
the obvious one.
Don't ask it.
So, off to the Oscars, that must have been
Was that the one? That's not the obvious one. That's a good one.
So, off to the Oscars, North London lad, obviously you had a lot of success with Senna as well, so maybe you were kind of used to it, but
it's very weird. It's like Disneyland of awards. It's very weird. It's amazing. You get used to, for a short moment in time, hanging around with like Matt Damon and Leonardo DiCaprio and all these people, because you see them at certain events. It's very peculiar. It's kind of, I've just come back from India, because for me, if I spend too much time in LA, I have to go to the opposite side of the world, to India, and kind of press the reset button and remember life isn't always like that. It was great fun, but it's kind of already feels like this kind of distant memory. Because then you just have to get on with the next film. You start all over again with a blank piece of paper, and that doesn't necessarily carry over from one to another. So it was great fun. It's an amazing kind of journey and experience. But then you just say, you kind of put it away on the shelf and you get on.
Yeah. And your next project?
Got a couple of things. I'm going to go off and do some American stuff over the summer, some American TV. So a lot of the kind of good quality writing now is going into kind of long form television. So I'm going to try a bit of that. Got another doc that we're starting to work on. I'm going to do one about Maradona, which I did a Q&A in India, and someone asked me, so when is your film about Madonna beginning? Which I wasn't sure if he was taking a piss or not, but I don't think he was. He had no idea who Maradona was, and he just thought it was a spelling mistake. So the Madonna film I'll be getting on with later in the year, and then there's a couple of kind of TV things as well. So yeah, we're just starting. Time to get rolling on 2 or 3 things and see which one works out.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming this evening.
I don't know if a couple of my teachers are here.
Oh, sorry. Yes. Yeah.
Where are you?
Let me just. I'm going to take the mic.
Yeah, do. There's a couple of my teachers from primary school. Part of the reason why I'm here.
Hello, Asif. It's just been fantastic watching your career, and this accolade that you've just received is so well deserved. And you were always somebody who had so much potential, and it's fantastic that you've achieved it. Well done. Brilliant.
Thank you.
Hi, Asif.
Hello,
I'm
Mr.
finding
Webb.
it very difficult to know what to say. I guess I used to enjoy telling stories, and I know that you appreciated some of them, but the stories you're telling are absolutely brilliant. Well done. Keep it up.
Thank you. That's Mr. Webb. So there is an anecdote, right? He was a great storyteller, the first kind of storyteller that I was aware of, and one of Mr. Webb's stories that he told in assembly, I don't know how old I would have been, it would have been 9 or 10. About 10, 12, 15 years later, I turned into a short film, which, while I was doing my postgraduate at the Royal College of Art, and that film won a prize at the Cannes Film Festival, was The Sheep Thief. I don't know what's the original story called. It was The Sheep Thief, right? So The Sheep Thief became this short film that essentially gave me the kind of real first step on the ladder. I got an agent, I was given some money to write, it won a prize at Cannes. My designer on that film is now my wife, and we have 2 kids. And it's amazing how that film really changed everything. It was shot in India with street kids, there were non-actors. That film then got me the chance to make my first feature film, The Warrior, which I did in India, and really that was the beginning. But it was just great stories. Stories kind of go on forever, and you have your own memories and interpretations of them. So very glad that you're both here, because it was I've got kids now, so teachers, schools are such an important part of your life, and they're so inspirational. So I'm here talking to you guys on a professional level and at a literally physical level because of you two. So thank you.
So, enjoyed the film? That's a difficult one to say, isn't it? Because it is such a powerful, strong piece of work. Enjoyable is something that you feel guilty about feeling about a film. but I enjoyed it immensely, and I'm so grateful for Asif coming along here this evening. He's only back from India on the 11th actually, and he said, contact me after I'm back, you know.
37 degrees. I feel cold for coming back. So hot there, but it's good to be back.
So I'd just like to, another great big thank you for both coming this evening and for such a wonderful piece of work. So thanks, Asif.
Thank you. Thank you very much.